Hello everyone. Good morning everyone. Hope all are doing good. So today I'm discussing another topic that is consciousness and AI. So how I can see the consciousness. The consciousness is what the nature of consciousness and how we can see that how we can understand the consciousness and how we can understand the pattern of consciousness to understand the thoughts. So the reasoning ability of human beings comes from the cognitive ability to understand things. So understanding things implies of understanding the human thought process. So when saying that we are understanding the human thought process, we are also understanding how human can think and how human can act. So there are a lot of things in understanding that particular thing. I mean, when I'm talking about certain things related to certain contextual things or certain things related to certain non-contextual things, we have this pattern in the mind and we have this understanding in our mind that how we can think and how we can progress our thinking on that particular topic. when when we talk about consciousness, so we talk about the content of consciousness and how we can think about that particular thing. So I mean, the nature of consciousness is free. The nature of consciousness is already there, but already there in the sense that it's a constant flow which don't have anything to do with anything. Okay, I mean, when I'm talking about consciousness, so consciousness is a constant flow of energy, or maybe a constant flow of understanding, this constant flow of energy which is already there without anything in everything. Now the question arises then again that uh, when we understand anything, how we understand anything. So the understanding implies of a lot of factors. These factors are basically related to understanding the basics of learning. So what happened that it may be a scenario where we understand how to learn and how to see the learning by itself. So I mean, the essential nature of learning by itself is understanding uh, that how we can learn, or the content of learning. The content of learning is basically what happened that when we try to learn something or when we try to understand something is representing the content of that particular thing. I'm not saying that uh, you know that particular content or that particular understanding of content is you know is maybe the part and parcel of understanding who we are. But I mean, the broad way understanding of consciousness is the nature of consciousness, that how we can understand consciousness, how we can imply consciousness, and how we can interrupt the consciousness, which we can think, which we can think, which we can think about it. I mean, the nature of thinking and the consciousness and how it is different from thinking by itself. So, so when I'm thinking that anything uh, related to thinking by itself, then I'm thinking about consciousness, which is which is which is not a nature of thinking, but it is there to an extent when I talking about AI or artificial intelligence is talking about the nature of understanding intelligence or understanding information of intelligence. But the consciousness is way beyond concept, where there is no intelligence but it is there. To an understanding of that, you can imply of the fact that the nature of understanding knowledge is understanding the intelligence behind the knowledge. So it may be anything. It applies to the things like understanding a particular knowledge, a particular thing, and particular way of thinking. That again implies intelligence, but I don't. But my opinion is consciousness has no knowledge. To an extent, it's a constant flow of bliss, or constant flow of something that is beyond the knowledge. Because intelligence applies certain things, certain mathematical notation, certain physical notation, or certain kind of ideas which comes out of it. because without coming out of it, or without understanding it, how we can understand the knowledge. So knowledge by itself can form a patterns. Knowledge by itself can form an understanding of patterns. That is real. That it forms a pattern. It forms an understanding of patterns. But in consciousness, there is no pattern at all. I mean, it's a constant flow of bliss without any knowledge. I mean, intelligence applies that. I mean, when in artificial intelligence we learn the mechanism of supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning, we knows that in supervised learning, the labeling can be done. Okay, so I mean, what essential implementation of this is, I mean, the labeling. I mean, what happened that when I understand anything, I understand by the label. Label in the sense that naturally what happens that over a period of time, I get to know about certain things, that this particular thing is this, like this is a cat, or this is a horse, or this is a particular object. So I mean, in machines also, I mean, in LLM programs also, and in LLM also, we try to understand the machines by understanding how they think and how they interrupt the information. So I mean, in supervised learning, we have seen that we try to make machine understand by the logical examples of understanding by itself. To an extent, when I am saying that certain object is cat, or certain object is dog, or certain object is something, we are understanding that by labeling that particular thing, and we try to make machines understand that labeling by our codes. Okay, unsupervised learning is something different, that essentially we form the pattern of understanding that particular relationship between, we are trying to create a pattern, and then we try to predict, we leave to the machine that whether they can identify a particular pattern or not. Like if you can have an example of animals. So what happened that we can consider a particular animal, that this is cat, this is dog, and the animals, the natural way of looking animals is like that these are all animals. So now we can produce next images to the machines, then machine can easily identify whether that particular thing is animal or not. To an extent, it is a part of unsupervised learning, but it is there, right? Same way, I mean, supervised learning is there, where the constant observation can be done to understand the particular thing. It may be anything, like we constantly remind machines pattern of the independent and dependent patterns in supervised learning, where we can understand that how we can interrupt that particular thing in supervised learning. So it is naturally that we can supervise a particular task by by the natural identification that what is this and what is that. In supervised learning, in supervised learning, there is no pattern. We are simply have a grouping, and we understand that particular thing is that is unsupervised learning. I mean, reinforcement learning is again it is about understanding that particular thing with the notion of understanding that it is a self-replicate education. What happened that there is an input and there is output. So what happened that in a continuous pattern forming, we are forming, because I don't think that the reinforcement learning can exist as an independent medium, because there are some medium which may be supervised, unsupervised. Then come the reinforcement, where the self replication of information can be happen, and then the prediction can be happen, because what happened that knowledge by itself changing and knowledge by itself improving in reinforcement learning, and then the knowledge by itself try to improve that. So what happened that if I am learning something, I trying to replicate it in by both ways, supervised and unsupervised, and try to understand that. So I mean, in reinforcement learning, this attribute can be done. This attribute can be done of understanding how we can understand the information. It is self-replicating by itself. So I mean, this is what understanding with the reinforcement learning, what the basis of reinforcement learning is: the input output, the labeling relationship, and the understanding of this labeling relationship, whether this labeling relationship can be self-actualized or not. So what happened that when I understand that when I understand that certain information is there and certain information is there, to replicate that information, to understand those information, I understand the pattern behind those information. Also, when I understanding the pattern behind the information, there may be a thing that when that pattern self-replicating, to check itself that this pattern is correct or not. I mean, in paper, in one of the research paper, it is attention is all you need. We have seen that when we understand a particular information, when we understand a particular thing of information, we are understanding the reinforcement learning, because what happened that we not only understand that particular information, but we also trying to self-replicate that particular information to confirm that particular information is correct or not. So this is what happened in reinforcement learning, where we can understand the particular information, we can self-replicate the particular information, and we're trying to have a prediction after that. Means what happened that when we study in supervised learning, there is a fixed pattern. In unsupervised learning, there is the pattern which is independent of the supervision. But in reinforcement learning, we understand that supervised and unsupervised can be already done, and now the information can be self-replicating by itself, and try to form the pattern, which is not of supervised and unsupervised learning, but it is automatic. What is the means of understanding of this is that the information is continuously try to understand by itself and forming patterns. What happens that in LLM systems also, we represent a contextual argument of the particular information. So what happens that when I'm talking about a particular thing, whether it is a code, Python code, or whether I'm talking about the AI notebooks, or whether I'm talking about any of the information related to coding like VS Code or JavaScript or any kind of language, what happens that system can create a patterns out of that, because the information analogy is reached to its peak level, and now the observations can be triggered with the token or with the information of the tokens. What happened that continuously self-reflecting informations are already there. So information can be self-reflect, information can be understandable, and information can continuously happening to be self-replicating by itself. So what happened that when information is self-replicating by itself, it is a understanding, it is a natural understanding that how we can understand the information, how we can interpret the information, how we can find insights in the particular information. So what happened that in LLM, large language model systems also, we trying to understand the information by itself and trying to form a patterns out of that. So naturally what happened that information can be understood, information can form pattern, and information can produce the other information now, because the information has no boundaries. I understand the fact that the information can be bound by the hardware implementation and all other information which is already there, but the essential understanding is that there is a pool of information which can be retrieved by the system by itself. When I'm saying what happened that it is a constant observation or constant understanding of the observation, where what happens that it can be triggered by the movement in the sense that whenever any information can be chunks of information can be related to that particular thing, it can produce the output. It can produce a natural output or natural inputs. So essentially what happened that when you train particular systems with a pre-trained data which is of a billion token, or maybe the fact it is maybe a billion token or a trillion token, or maybe the token which create an input output relationship. So when we create the input-output relationship between in supervised learning, what happened that we trying to we when we trying to ask the another question, we have the answer. In unsupervised learning, it is a natural implication of that particular information, because systems try to understand that particular information with a natural inclination and natural intent. In unsupervised learning, in reinforcement learning, it is a self-replicating itself. The information by itself self-replicating itself, and the information can be generated automatically, because the reason is information also can already create an input-output relationship. Information already created the relationship which is already there, and then it can form patterns. So this is my short introduction with AI tools, and how the intelligence can affect the AI, and how we can see the nature of consciousness, the content, and the intelligence by itself. Thank you so much.